Hi guys, this is a video that's been requested by many of you over the years who want to know how I go about recording guitar videos and what gear I have for that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I guess this question stems from a lot of people's interest in making their own YouTube channels and being a YouTube guitarist themselves. So the first thing that I would say is really think long and hard as to what you want your content to be. I don't really know anything about music theory. I'm completely self-taught by ear. And I'm not very technical either, so in terms of the hardware of the guitar and, you know, fret radius and all that kind of stuff, I have absolutely zero idea. I know what guitars I like, and that's all I care about really. So I knew that I could never talk about that in videos really. And I quickly discovered that I just wanted to record videos of songs that I wanted to play rather than looking for views. I think there's a lot of guitarists out there that start up a YouTube channel and they think, oh, I'll do this cover and that cover, and that's going to generate a whole bunch of, you know, views, and then I can go from there and it'll just completely boom. Unfortunately, there's no real recipe for success in this type of game, and I'm quite happy with just doing the videos that I want to make and just seeing what happens. I do sometimes get a little bit annoyed that over the years my production values really increased, but I still get many thousands of views on my very old videos where I was just sat in front of a camera on my phone and put absolutely zero effort into it, and they're still doing amazingly well, whilst my newer ones don't do so good. So something to bear in mind as to what you want your outcomes to be with being a YouTube guitarist. And as I say, I'm still very small fry. But I'm happy with that, I'm content with that, and I just really enjoy seeing all the comments that people send me, and you know, just people acknowledging my work and stuff, so that's all I get out of it really. So once you've decided what kind of content and videos that you want to make are, the first thing you need to know is a little bit of information on cameras and how they work. So I originally started making YouTube videos with just a smartphone. Most people have a smartphone, and most record in 1080p at least, or 4K at 60 frames per second, and that can output really good video. The camera that I'm using at the moment is a Sony ZV-1. It's a great little camera. It's about £800. I think it's about $700–800 US as well. I'll double check that and put the actual pricing in the video. But it's a great little camera because there's little flip screens, so I can look at myself. I'm looking at myself right now whilst I'm recording, and it has a lot of manual settings. So the reason you need to know a bit about cameras is you need to know about lighting. So generally natural lighting is always the best lighting. So luckily for me, if I flip the camera, I've got a window right here. So that gives me a lot of natural light. I've also, however, got an LED light just there. Let me just flip the camera back. So I've got a lot of front light and side light at the moment, and that's really highlighting me, whilst my background is a lot darker. So it's thinking about aperture, you know, lighting, stuff like that you'll need to have a good knowledge of in order to make, you know, high production value videos. So maybe you don't consider my videos high production. I feel like I've come on leaps and bounds. Another thing to consider whilst we're talking about, you know, your cameras and stuff is actually your backdrop. So for me, this is just my office, and I just happen to have guitars hanging absolutely everywhere. I've got a Fender, which I'm currently working on to fit it with Fat 60s custom shop. So I've bought it online but not started using it yet. I've got a Martin over there. I've got a Telecaster just down here, and just hanging up against the window is a Les Paul here, and then I have another 1, 2, 3, 4 guitars over there. So in terms of a backdrop, I've also got my desk. So quite often you'll notice that I have my screen on, and it will have usually my logo or something like that on there, and I've put all LED lighting around the screen. Now that's not much, it's just to give it a little bit of interest and a little bit of a look, so that it looks a little bit more polished in the videos and a bit more fancy. Sometimes I also, because I used to tour in a function band, I have some stage lighting as well, which on some of my videos you'll notice that on this wall here, which is very dark at the moment, I actually light up that wall as well. So yeah, lighting is a big thing, and your backdrop is a big thing. You know, there are a few mistakes that I make at times. You may notice in some of my videos that I have my lunch sitting behind me, and stuff like that. But I generally find that having a lot of people have a nice studio setup. I mean, I do have, this is like a hybrid studio, so it's an office as well as a studio. So I've got like my mixing desk and stuff over there as well. But I don't really have a very fancy studio. Like a lot of YouTube guitarists, they have like, it looks like an official like recording studio in the background. I'm just in my office with a John Mayer poster that I need to reset because it's all skew with. So I keep noticing that in my videos, that the picture is falling in there, so I need to fix that as well. So think about your backdrop. Do you want flowers? Do you want lighting behind you? And sometimes lighting works really well. Like if you look at my face right now, you can see that my ear is kind of being illuminated by the LEDs behind me. So that's a really nice touch. And it can help backlight you as well, which really helps with recording as well. So think about your backdrop, think about your camera. If you're starting out, I would heavily suggest just using a smartphone, because a lot of phones these days output really great video. So let's move on to sound and how I record the sound. So you're gonna have to forgive me here because I'm just holding the camera freehand, but the first thing I do is I just literally plug into my Line 6 Helix LT. Previously I used a Pod and a Pod HD and an HD 500 as well, all Line 6. And I've always generally used them over miking up an amp. Now I do have an amp behind me, but it's a Fender 410 DeVille, but it's just much too loud for a home setting. And I can generally set up my Line 6 to have all the sounds that I want and adapt to each track. So that's the first thing that I plug into. And then that outputs to this little bit of kit, which is my mixing desk, and the Alesis Multimix 16 USB 2.0. Very old and very much not in production anymore, but they were great because it was USB 2.0. It comes with 16 tracks that I can individually record. So when I used to record bands, I could get a single track onto my recording interface for every single mic input, whilst a lot of mixing desks these days, they just come with a stereo output, which really isn't doable at all. So for the price point, and this was about 250 quid off eBay, it's probably even less now if you can find one. These are great because they plug into your computer via USB and you get 16 individual tracks. I think they also did a 10 or 12 version and a 4 version as well. Could be wrong on that, but I definitely think that they did a 4 or a 2 version. I'm just saying all the numbers right now. But anyway, so my Line 6 goes into this, it just plugs in via a jack lead, and then the USB then takes it out to my computer and my audio interface. So we'll move on to the audio interface. So I'm recording this video in real time, and you can see that because I have so much natural light in here, I've not changed any settings on my camera, but I'm now much more lit, and that's because the clouds have just brightened up. So that's something that you need to consider as well. So you may want to find a room that does not have natural light. I actually personally prefer it, but because I record on manual settings on my camera and I set the exposure and ISO and all that kind of stuff, sometimes if the sun comes out, that can really affect your video because all of a sudden everything is blown out, and now you can see that my face is a lot whiter than before. So just harping back to the camera business, that's something that you need to consider. So I actually do have a type of curtain here that's a little bit see-through. So sometimes, look at that, I can just draw that across, and then that avoids my face being blown out and too white too much. Because we all know that I'm pasty as hell anyway, so we don't want that to be even worse. So now I'm going to splice in some footage of the audio software that I use to record. So I personally use Adobe Audition, but people can use Cubase, Pro Tools, whatever you may want to do. They're all generally the same and do the same kind of job. For me, Audition was a good price point, and it had all the bells and whistles that I could ever want in terms of recording and editing. So I do a lot of multi-track mixing. So a lot of my backing tracks I buy from a company, and they provide me with the multi-track sessions, and then that allows me to remove all the guitars and mix it exactly how I want by adding in my own guitars and mixing the vocals and all that, you know, as I want it to my taste. It's really, really easy to use and looks very simple. You have different tracks for every audio line that you want in, and there's a whole bunch of built-in effects that you can apply if you want, and it has a mastering capability, EQ, compression, all that kind of stuff. I would really highly recommend it, though Cubase is great if you want to have some kind of MIDI input, so maybe you're not a guitarist and you're a keyboard player and you're recording via MIDI. Cubase would be great for that. Pro Tools is also very good for singers because that's a lot easier auto-tune production techniques within that. So here you can see Adobe Audition. I've got the multi-track mix down all here, and in this case it's Survivor's Eye of the Tiger, which will be an upcoming video. My guitar track here is the mono one, and there's things like your click track and such that I've muted. Anyway, once you've finished recording and you've got the mix generally as you want it, you can go to multi-track mix down, do the entire session, save it as whatever you want. So I'm going to put Eye of the Tiger 3 and save that. So it's now saving. And then you have on the side here, this is your mix, and you can then go to effects. You've got stuff like compression, you've got a mastering suite as well, which is something that I use all the time. And then you can save whatever you've edited it to and take it to your video editing software. Simples. So video editing, so the software that I use is called Vegas. I think it was originally called Sony Vegas and now it may be Magix Vegas, I'm not quite sure on that, but it's a great piece of software, and it's very similar kind of to Adobe Audition, where you have the multi-track functionality and you can literally drag and drop your video in and match up your audio. So one thing I did forget to mention was that the camera that I'm shooting with now has audio recording capability. It has a nice little fluffy microphone on the top of it, but obviously it's not great. So direct line audio recording is probably the best bet rather than just taking your camera audio. And then I can drag that into the video editing software and then match it all up with the camera audio as well. So then it's in sync. And then from there, I'm able to look at the video itself. So when I first started recording guitar videos, I kind of dabbled with doing multiple camera angles. So I used to have like a GoPro that I tried for a while, as well as my camera phone. But I generally found that using different cameras and, you know, multiple cameras and multiple camera angles didn't really work for me. So since I've had the Sony ZV-1, that shoots in 4K. And it's pretty good quality for a one-size-fits-all kind of camera. I would like to get in Sony a6700, which has, you know, lenses that are like $1,000. So yeah, that, you know, it's quite an upgrade, but for now the Sony ZV-1's great. Shoots in 4K. That allows me with that 4K capability to slightly zoom in and start doing like pans with the video editing software. So what I'll do right now is on my face, I'll like pan it from one side to the other so you can see how that's done. And yeah, it just really allows me to do stuff like color grading as well. That's something that a lot of people need to look into, because a lot of the video quality as it comes out of the camera, the colors may not be quite as you want it, and may be too white or too gray, and you're able to add vignettes and all sorts of different things. I've done videos in the past that have a bit of a camera lens blur to them. So some of the 24 Nights Eric Clapton videos that I did had a slight blur to them, and that was to be a bit like the Albert Hall cameras back in the 80s. And I did an Adele 80s video that was done like a VHS as well. So, you know, there's a lot of things out there, but you can waste a lot of time figuring out, you know, and adding effects that aren't really needed. So my 2 cents is to get a copy of Sony Vegas. I think on average it's about £200 or so. I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's well worth the money. I'd always go for the most updated one. One thing I should mention as well, that shooting in 4K requires quite a heavy duty computer. So behind me I have my home computer, and it has a Intel i7 9700K CPU, which a lot of the times isn't enough. The graphics card on it is an 8GB Radeon RX 350 or something like that. I'll put the correct one in the video. But you would think with 8 gigabytes, that's massive and it'd be great, but it's kind of old now. And it still takes a bit of a pelting when you start adding effects to your videos. So one thing that you will need to do is have maybe like a MacBook. That would be great, I'd imagine, as it's kind of industry standard for video recording and editing. And certainly a very heavy duty CPU and graphics card. If you want to shoot in 4K, of course, you can just shoot in 1080p, which a lot of computers can handle. And you also have software now like Topaz Video AI, where you can shoot something in 1080p and then upscale it to 4K using AI capability. But I've personally never used that. I do have the software, but I've never personally used it just because it's so CPU heavy in that upgrade as well. So it can take you many hours just to do a few minutes of video. But something to bear in mind as well is just having the right hardware, so your actual PC as well. But yeah, so once I've recorded all the audio and I've mixed it and I've done a mix down and I've exported it into Sony Vegas and the video into Sony Vegas, matched it all up, and then I do all the editing in that software that I want, so all the different camera angles and pans and color grading and any effects that I may want on there. I then render the video, and the video comes out and it's got direct audio, pretty good video quality, but all the guys on the internet like my old crappy videos with a camera phone and you know, a fuzzy lens. So, you know, it's one of those things. This is the video editing software, Sony Vegas. This is actually my older version, which is 18. I've loaded up the wrong one, but they look exactly the same. So what I can do is I can drag in the audio file that I've just saved. So I'll go about doing that in 2 seconds. There you go. And this is multiple takes that you can see along the left-hand side of my video track here. So you can see that I played for a bit, stopped, played for a bit, and stopped. And that's because I made a mistake. So I know that roughly this is the correct take, and this is the correct audio. So all that I do is I can trim this up in order to match up the audio. So as you can see, I've now put the audio roughly in time. At least I hope so. I'm just going to play it to double check. I certainly have. So the video is unedited. I've got it on a really low quality here. I can increase the quality of the video. And then I've got all my effects that I may want to add. So there's stuff like glow, all different fancy stuff that I can do. And also I can split up the one video and I can pan it. So if I actually split this scene here, so I'm just splitting that, and I can split it for, I don't know, a few seconds. And then in this part here, if I drag this part of the window over, I can assign the editing software to pan. So you can see in the screen over here, it's one take, just one camera, but I can, if I drag this down to about here, I can change the camera angle so that it then pans. But unfortunately my playback is so awful. Let's do it as a quarter. It's very hard on your computers. There you go. So, once you've done all the editing that you want and you've rendered your file, you have your guitar video with real audio and multiple camera angles. Simple as that. Having all the gear does not mean that you're going to be an instant success on YouTube. My channel, I think I'm about 5,500 subscribers currently, but I know that my channel's increased 400% in the last 12 months. But at the end of the day, I'm not looking for success in any way. I used to be a musician in a function band. I then moved to the Warwickshire area of England, and COVID happened, and then I had a baby. So my time is considerably less now, and over COVID there was really no gigs or ways of meeting people anyway. So I'd always had YouTube, but I started to invest a lot more time into YouTube. once COVID happened. But YouTube is my main musical outlet, and I play the songs that I want to play, and it's kind of a thing with me that I like to see whether or not I can accomplish the song and do it justice. So a lot of you may know that I've never had like lessons. I have a music degree, but I have no music theory knowledge. Just bits and pieces that I've picked up from other people, or I've been told, because a lot of people like to tell me that I use mainly pentatonics and stuff like that, and that's fine, I've got no issue with that. But yeah, I like to take a track that I've always enjoyed and always liked listening to, and seeing whether or not I can replicate in any capability, you know, the song. And I like to do my own spin on things. I personally find guitar videos a bit boring if it's a note for note cover, unless, you know, I'm reviewing it in a function band setting and I just can't figure out by ear exactly how that guitar solo goes. But generally I go down the lines of 50% the original guitar solo, 50% Nick's finesse, which works for me. I know it grinds a lot of people's gears online because they like guitarists that just do note for note covers, but that's fine. But yeah, I hope this video's been enjoyable or informative. I get so many queries that are like, what gear are you using? Like, what amp are you using? Well, the thing is, it's all in the Line 6 Helix. Prior to that, it was a Line 6 Pod HD 500. Prior to that, it was a Pod XT Live. And prior to that, it was a Line 6 Pod, the original pods. All direct line into my mixing desk and then my computer. And then my poor little amp that I've got down here with my lunch on top of it barely gets used anymore. So I'm hoping one day I'll start gigging again, and when that happens I'll have the amp there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it and it's informative, and yeah, just think about what kind of videos you want to make, what kind of gear you want to invest in. You don't have to spend £800 like I did on a Sony ZV-1. Just use your camera phone to begin with. I think a lot of people out there just use that. iPhones are great for recording video, and I've got a Google Pixel which is great for recording video as well. And yeah, generally other than that, you just need a way of recording, you know, your audio.
Standard Canon EOS R5C. It offers 8K RAW internal recording, plus 4K DCI full frame up to 120 FPS, and has an active cooling system to extend recording life. Add this to the RF lens mount and you've got the ideal serious video camera.
Thanks, Google. But yeah, consider what you want in terms of gear, how you want to record your audio. I hope this video has been informative, and I really appreciate you watching it. So I wish you all the best. And as always, if you can share my videos around, tell people about me, I always really appreciate that. I'm gaining, you know, a lot more momentum as the months go on. So I really appreciate everything that everyone does in terms of viewing my videos and sending me comments and stuff, good or bad. It's all good. And yeah, I hope you take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.